welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by JPG for a game of Brothers in Arms. Brothers in Arms is a two-player RPG about friendship, war, memory, and loss. In this GM-less game, players portray two soldiers sharing a moment of downtime, reflecting on the things that have brought them together. Each of the game's 6 acts represents a set of memories, and together players create the story of a shared past, but only one player will make it out of the war alive. It is not a game about patriotism or courage, it is a game about the desperate sort of companionship that people find when they are in desperate circumstances, and the bitter pain that is gained by losing those connections. You can find more about Brothers in Arms in the show notes. JPG is a pop culture educator, consultant, podcaster, and prolific tabletop RPG performer. You can find more about his work at Linktree, that's linktr.ee/speakerjpg. Now, a brief content note, as you could probably guess from the description of the game, this is a pretty heavy and emotional episode. It deals with frank discussions of the realities of war, characters' economic circumstances, and, well, the death of a character. Listener discretion is advised. But first, an ad, because they pay the bills. This probably won't surprise you, because this is a podcast about playing role-playing games, which is largely based on reading books. But I like to read books. You've probably seen Shadow and Bone on Netflix. Season 2 is streaming now, and these are the novels that inspired that series. The Grishaverse novels are set in a lavish fantasy world in which magic and science collide, first established in the Shadow and Bone trilogy and further expanded in the Six of Crows duology. If you've seen the Netflix series Shadow and Bone, you like those sort of dangerous outcast characters, Six of Crows is directly up your alley, but there are also a lot of other books in the Grishaverse, and this is perfect for fans of Game of Thrones, The Witcher, Wheel of Time, or, say, Dungeons & Dragons and Blades in the Dark and related role-playing games. Wink, wink. Listen, if you're listening to this show, I'm willing to bet that, a particular vein of, urban crime, fantasy, magic, science colliding type stuff is maybe up your alley, so I'm willing to bet that you would enjoy Six of Crows if you read it. NPR called it a world that's real enough to have its own passport stamp, and that is the kind of immaculate, elaborate world building that I always am excited to see. To learn more, go to Grishaverse.com, that's GRISHAVERSE.com, or get your copy wherever books are sold. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I am so excited this week to be sitting down with JPG. JPG, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Of course, thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited. Today's game is going to be really, really wonderful. I cannot wait, but before we dive in and before we play a game together, why don't you take a moment and let our lovely listeners at home know about anything you've got going on that you might want the audience at home to know about.
Sure. So once again, I'm JPG. I am a pop culture educator and consultant. I am also, you can find me on social media at SpeakerJPG. On all of my social medias, you'll find a Linktree link in order to see all of my work as well, too. So, interviews that I've done and tabletop RPGs that I'm a part of as well, too. That's updated maybe every few weeks. So, you'll see the breadth of my work there as well.
Fantastic. Love to hear it. Love to... I having just updated my website yesterday, I love to see all of our work in one place. It is... It's so much more work than it should be, tracking all these things, but it exists, and I'm happy that it exists.
Oh no, I'm very happy that things like Linktree and all that stuff exist. Oh my gosh, my life is so much easier because of it. Truly,
and just the ability to be here's all of my stuff. It's in one place. I don't have to go digging for it, and you don't have to go digging for it. It's life-changing. Truly, legitimately life-changing. So, this week we are playing Brothers in Arms, which is a game for 2 players inspired by the music of Dire Straits. This game is not about patriotism or courage. It is about the bonds that form between 2 people when they are far from home. Our characters are not heroes. They are not great generals or tacticians or decorated officers. Some were conscripted, some enlisted out of a sense of duty, others signed up because of economic pressures or to escape their past. In each of the game's 6 acts, 2 players will reflect on the things their characters have endured together, the adventures they've shared, and the losses too. Each act of the game is a moment of reminiscence between 2 characters. We are 2 soldiers passing downtime while on duty. There are 2 prompts per act to guide us. We should respond to those prompts in character using phrases like "Do you remember the time?" or "Hey, remember when?" as jumping off points. While each player takes a turn initiating and guiding the conversation, both should care in crafting the memory and responding to what the other player is saying. We are creating dialogue about shared memory, but as in real life, one character may remember things differently or have different details that stick out in our mind. We can also take time to discuss details of the scene out of character before beginning it or at any point where it feels useful to do so. This game was inspired by the song Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits. In the song, a dying soldier reflects on his time fighting in a senseless war. Knopfler wrote it in response to the Falkland War of 1982. It is not a song about courage or patriotism. The singer is homesick, tired, and knows that they will not see their home again. All they have is the bond they've built with their fellow soldiers. When they look across the battlefield, they only see a reflection of themselves in the soldiers who fought for the other side. It ends with an admonition. We are fools to make war with our brothers in arms. I recommend, Melissa, the designer, recommends taking time to queue up this song in the music app of our choice before we begin the game and playing it when our scene is ended. Copyright law exists, so I recommend the listener either pause this and go listen to it, or after we've played, take some time to listen to the song. All right. So that's the setting of the game. That's where we're at. We are going to play through a number of scenes. We are going to play through 6 scenes following the story of our 2 soldiers. But before we do that, we've got to land on a setting. This can be, we are stationed at a base or fortification on the front line. This can be a foxhole space station, outpost bordering the wilderness, a fortress guarding a portal, or wherever else we want it to be. We should use this opportunity to talk about when and where this takes place, and talk about, like, you know, things like technology level, like what we're fighting against, what the nature of our soldiers are, where and when we are. So I will throw this to you at the very top. Do you have thoughts on the type of setting, scenes and setting that you want to explore here today?
Well, being a massive nerd, right? Like my gut reaction is either to go with fantasy or sci-fi, right?
That was kind of my vibe as well, so yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, and so, okay, out of the 2, what do you think we should do?
I've been kind of going back and forth, and, you know, if we're going to ring the bell, we should ring the bell as hard as possible, and I'm just going to say the two things that have been on my mind, and this is probably because they are somewhat inescapable at the moment, especially. I've got Lord of the Rings and I've got Star Wars on the mind. And so, like, if we are filing the serial numbers off of either of those or explicitly making some fan fiction today, I am fine with either of those options and either of those settings, but those are the 2 vibes that are kind of in my head. Okay.
Well, I definitely know more about Star Wars than I do Lord of the Rings. So if we're going straight up knowledge, I would choose Star Wars.
Let's go. I think let's go serial numbers filed off imitation Star Wars. That feels good.
I'm okay with that.
That feels good. And that gives us a little bit more space to kind of like throw big pitches and swings. And I think that feels like a fun space to explore. And so we are in a distant galaxy in a distant future. Are we on a planet? Are we on a space station? What's the space that enters into your mind?
I would say, now, do we have to be in actual, like, physical proximity of each other?
I think my gut says I think it would make for the best, maybe not all the time, but I think that we should have the possibility, like, it should be a regular occurrence.
Okay, because I was going to say, if we're pilots...
Okay, then here's what I'm thinking. Pulling on an entire other source of inspiration.
Okay.
What if this is a legally distinct from the Battlestar Galactica, and we are fighter pilots on a, like, aircraft carrier?
Oh, yes. I love it.
You know, galactic class freighter ship, and we are the fighter pilots that jump out of the docking bay.
I love it.
That's sick. That really rules. That rules a lot. So talk to me about what these fighter jets look like, and what the nature of the combat that we're engaged in is.
I think the ones that especially because I want to keep, like, very close to the spirit of the game itself. Mm-hmm. Like, these have to be just the most terrible and basic planes that we're flying.
I'm getting sci-fi World War I dogfight in my head immediately.
But I also think that there are other, like, cooler, bigger planes. They're like mechs There's all
that
this other
feels good.
stuff. We just get the worst ones.
We are just handed. We have a rocket. Like behind us, and a gun in front of us, and two wings on our side, and a little dinky joystick, and that's about the best that we have been handed. That rules. I love that a whole lot. And I think, like, leaning into the theme of the game as well, and this is kind of the reason why I think I wanted to file the serial numbers off of Star Wars a little bit. I want what we are, if in Star Wars terms, I wouldn't want us to be, like, in the Rebel Alliance fighting the Empire, because that feels too heroic for the themes of the game, so I'm almost envisioning something like the worst version of the episodes 1 and 2 conflict, right? Where we are fighting in a military dispute between powers that feels like it is for the most mundane and, like, the lowest stakes, like, access to supply chains.
Okay.
So what I think is happening, what I think is unfolding in front of us, is pulling in a little bit of space magic. There is, like, an ancient space portal that has been discovered, and various sci-fi factions are all trying to claim it, and we happen to be in one of the, like, freighter ships that is currently holding this ancient portal.
Could I go a little bit further on that one?
Please push it as far as you can, always.
It's rumored between the ranks that this is a mirror universe. So it's
That's
literally
sick.
So it's literally you that could come through that has, like, somehow made a different choice or something like that, and now that's a mirror universe.
I love that, and I love the idea that there are military powers that are trying to take this and trying to, like, gain access to what may or may not be the multiverse is very compelling, and that gives, on the surface, a reason that makes sense for people to try and gain access to it, but it also just highlights the sense of, like, it feels so far above our heads and above our lives as soldiers that it's going to impact us so little that it does feel suitably pointless.
No, I love it. And I just think, like, I think it's more so rumors than anything else, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like...
Nothing has come through the portal yet. Like, it's just this this imposing-looking gateway that, like, there are rumors about it, and that is enough to spur conflict.
Oh, I love it.
That's really good. I really love this. All right. So that is our setting. So now we are going to go through our character creation. And so we have some questions. To answer. We are both enlisted soldiers holding the lowest rank our setting allows for. This explains our shitty planes. We are going to name our characters, give them pronouns, and then take time to answer the following questions. I think what we'll do is start at the top of the list and just... I'll ask the first question, you ask the second one, and we'll just rattle down the list and throw out the answers that come to mind.
Sure.
So, immediately, I am just going to throw a name in here. I'm going to throw out my best Star Wars name. My name is Jazz Allegiance, he, his pronouns.
I'm going to be Piata Bauer, he, him.
Piata Bauer, it's a good fucking name, is the thing. I'm going to read the first question, and we'll just run down the list. Did you enlist willingly, or were you conscripted?
Piata, definitely... Willingly is a strong word. I think it's more financially sound that Piata filed in the ranks, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think to bounce off of that, like, I think that, I'm trying to decide. I don't think I'm going to go, like, super willingly. I think that what it is for Jazz is that Jazz, this is not a financial thing for Jazz. This is like Jazz willingly signed up, but did not willingly sign up because he believed in a cause. Willingly signed up because, like, his passion is, like, operating these sorts of, like, advanced aerospace machinery, and this was the way that he, like, the only path for him to get into the career that he wanted to chase after.
That actually answers our next question, which is how personal are the stakes of this war to you?
I don't think they could be less personal to Jazz if he tried. Like, I think that truly this is an opportunity for Jazz to pilot a plane And, you learn the most by piloting the worst planes, so he's pretty happy in his current position.
Yeah, I think Piata is taking this as I'm learning a trade.
I'm just going to throw this in. Is there a mentor-mentee relationship unfolding here? We can leave that in the air for now, but I feel like if you're learning a trade, it feels like there's a natural moment for, at the very least, a connection there of we're both kind of learning, like we've become friends because we're both like trying to learn the thing.
Okay.
That feels good. Who, if anyone, is at home waiting for you?
No one.
No one. Okay.
I don't think anyone is waiting for me at home. I think it's very much another piece of me coming here is to build a home.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. What about Jazz?
Jazz, I think, has a lot of people waiting for him back home. I think that Jazz's home community, one of those, like, small towns where everybody knows everybody. Like, I think Jazz comes from... I think at the same time, there's a loneliness that comes from that, where, like, everybody knows everybody, but it doesn't feel like there's, like, there's nobody so close that he would call them family. But there are a lot of people that are rooting for him.
What is a skill from your old life that has come in handy? You have an answer for this one?
I'm thinking it through. I'm gonna build off of the last answer and say, Jazz has been really good at, like, organizing people. Jazz has been really good at, like, delegating, and, like, for as little authority as he's been given, he's been very good at, like, bringing people together and bridging people and introducing people. Like, that is his background, and that is the thing that he has brought to his role, is being the people person of our unit.
I think this is going to go great, like, hand in hand with Piata as well, because Piata, I think, is really good at acquisitions. Piata is very good at, okay, please give me the thing that you're not willing to give over, and then you are going to immediately forget me after you help me.
That's great. That's great. I really love that. So what's a skill that you've picked up since going to war?
Ooh. I think an unintended skill is cooking. Okay. Right? Like, I think there's, like, I was definitely doing simple meals back at home and all that stuff, but with the necessity of, being actively at war, and then being able to acquisition stuff, I think good food is something that he was definitely acquisitioning.
I think the skill that Jazz picked up was, I am going to say, pulling on that first answer, I think that Jazz has learned so much about the machine, like the mechanics of machinery. Like, Jazz has learned how to assemble and disassemble, everything from a small arm pistol to one of these giant mechs, like, because he's just been hitting the book. He hits the book so relentlessly that, like, he just picks up on all of these little details.
What financial background did you come from?
I think Jazz is a working class, like, farm boy.
I think Piata is, like, the space equivalent of food stamps.
I like that. I really like that. Do you identify with the dominant culture or ethnic group of the society you're fighting for, or is there another group you feel more a part of?
No, I definitely identify more with marginalized communities.
I think so. I think same.
I'm trying to think of how we are marginalized in a way that would make sense for space. Would it be that... See, because one of my favorite pieces of media is The Expanse.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, just how, like, belters are treated, and then also, like,
right.
there's like a gravity, there's like a physical angle to it, like a literal gravity that they cannot handle. I want it to be the opposite for me here. Since I'm from on planet, like, I have a hard time, like, moving around in the space station, and, like, they make fun of me for it.
I like that. I really love that. I think that being from, I think that, like, leaning hard on the farming community piece, like, technologically, like, we come from a place where, like, technology, like, isn't like, well, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I've like latched onto so hard to like reading these books, and why this was my career path, is like this sort of like advanced 3D or like advanced like 7D technology, right? Like all your quantum physics and such. The technology that we're used to managing on planet is technology that is very purpose driven on like managing a hydrostatic farm, right? Like we are machines that we use have like a clear singular purpose, and so playing in like theoretical quantum spaces is just not like, and there's a degree that comes with the position on station because of like what we're engaging with. So do you feel the war is going well? What do your commanding officers say about who is winning, and do you agree with their assessments?
We have seen, like per the rules of Brothers in Arms, we have seen a little bit of combat. Mm-hmm. Do we feel the war is going well? I don't know if I have a feeling either here nor there. We're at war. Like there's not really a good or bad in the first place to this.
Yeah, I think that Jazz feels very much the same way. Like, he's hearing story, I think we're getting stories from the commanding officers, and it's all like rah rah, fight for the cause, everything's going great. But I think that this is very much a job, and like I'm not looking at the war in like a big picture beyond they tell me where to go, I fly there, and then I fly back and I read my books.
I really connect with that too, because the next question for that was, what do your commanding officers say about it? I'm sure that there's just a lot of posturing or all that stuff, but like, no, you assign me to a place, I go to it, and the best I can do is learn something new.
I like that. I really love that.
Who is a friend you've made at camp?
A friend I think that it would be easy to go with one another, but I think I'm also going to throw out, I'm going to throw in the detail that like there is like a small squad of us that kind of are all in the same position that like have like a little bit of like slacker, work hard, play hard energy. Where like, when we're back on the freighter, when we're on planet, when we're on shore leave, it's all pizzas and movies, and then and it's kind of that sense of like I'm not paying attention to the war kind of spreads throughout this group that is more of a social support net than it is an actual like military unit. And we've come up with a nickname for ourselves, which is, it's the Joy Riders, because there was an incident where we snuck out in some of these shitty jets for some joy rides.
For me, I'm going to push the envelope a little bit on this one.
Go for it.
I have a not so secret love affair with one of our commanding officers, but only Jazz knows about it, because Jazz has been the one that has been covering for me.
I love that. Yep. I think, what a joyrider hears about, a joyrider tells nobody. I think that there was a moment where you came to me and like confessed this, or I found it out some way, and
I think you 100% walked in on us.
I walked in, and like there was very much a moment like where I walk in, like we locked eyes. I think our commanding officer's like back was to me, so like did not hear me or see me come in. We locked eyes. I spun on my heels, walked out, and like you tried to confront me about it later or like explain, and I so aggressively denied that it happened that you picked up on the vibe of like, oh yeah, it's like, it does not exist in my worldview.
But now you are getting a few extra rations here and there from a certain commanding officer.
Yeah, I do get some special treatment, but like in my mind, and I think like I'm not turning them down, but I also at no point am going to like turn around and say anything, because I think it was never in the back of my mind. So what is one thing each of us have been told about the enemy? I think we've been told they have overwhelming numbers. Like, I think that like the toxic military narrative of like the few against the many has been like spread about, and maybe we even have a little bit more of a picture of like, they're kind of blowing smoke, but like we have been told, stories upon stories of their massive fleets and armies and the trillions strong that are going to come at us when we least expect it.
I would say, like, I want to go even a little bit more, like, horror-esque on this one, is that they take our bodies if they kill us in battle.
That's sick. That rules. I love that. That's
like,
great.
Right?
That
like,
kicks ass.
We can't leave them there.
Yeah.
Right?
That kicks ass. That rules. I love that. And so with that, we've met our characters and gotten to know the setting, and so now we are going to play through 6 scenes. Each scene has 2 prompts. We are going to talk through and work through. Each of us has a question that we will answer, and each of our questions is predicated by the flipping of a coin. I do not have a coin on me, and I'm so bad at flipping coins that I have grabbed a dice, and I'm just going to say highs or heads, lows or tails.
Highs or heads, lows or tails. Wait, what kind of dice are you rolling?
I have a very gay rainbow D20.
So 1 to 10 is low, and then 11 to 20 is high?
Yep.
Okay, so are you high or are you low?
I think what I'm going to do, I think we'll call it, we'll go back and forth. I'll have you call whether you want highs or lows on a given roll.
Love it.
So, Act 1, what cemented your bond? We're going to flip a coin to determine who begins the scene by recalling the day the 2 of us were first thrown together. Do you want highs or lows on this roll?
I'd like highs.
All right. That is a 17, so you are going to recall the moment, the day that we were first thrown together. Where were you both when you met and learned you'd be in the same unit? What was your first impression? And then we are going to play out a little bit of that scene. And then I, as the person that lost the coin toss, should share my first impressions. Do we remember it the same way? I remember something that happened early on to bring us together and what cemented that friendship. So, where are we as we are having this, like, reminiscent conversation?
Oh, I think we're in one of the hangars, and we've set up, like, some of the... There's, like, some, like, munitions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of set up, like a nook with, like, a couple hammocks. And, like, nobody ever goes over there because it's such, like, old munitions. It's kind of like a clubhouse a little bit.
That rules. That's great. Yep, that's perfect.
And then in the directions it says, let the scene unfold like a conversation, each player reacting to what the other said. And so I'm going to start the conversation. How did you... I don't really understand how you got the next rank the day that we met.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't, because it was unfortunate luck is how I would describe it.
I mean, like, somebody had to have died, right?
Well, you would think that. And yet, remember the engine malfunction that caused one of the bomber jets to just explode in the docking bay?
Yeah, I mean, like, everybody, there were all these rumors that, like, it wasn't an accident or whatever, right? Like, and, like, that idiot in our barracks kept saying that it was a ghost.
I mean, have not ruled that out. To be clear, I want to state that as just as a possibility. Like, I haven't ruled out ghost. I've seen some very compelling evidence, neither here nor there. They needed somebody that could manage a combine or could manage some construction equipment. I raised my hand and they gave me a promotion. It should not have worked out that way, but it seems like that was all it took. Like.
I wish you would have been there that, like, when we were in commissary, like, right after that, because everybody could have sworn that you were somebody's kid.
That's very funny, because I distinctly remember walking into the commissary for dinner and everybody staring at me like I was the ghost that blew up that bomber ship. That explains a lot about what unfolded when I tried to grab some dinner.
Oh man, is that? Oh, okay. So I wasn't even a part of this though, but is that why the ghost is painted on your ship?
It's not why the ghost is painted on my ship. Like, truly, if you ask me, like, I recognize there's probably not a ghost, right? Like, I understand that that's an unlikely case. But if there's a ghost, I don't want to fuck with that, and I want that ghost to know that we're friends and that that I'm a trusted ally to the ghost. So I got a ghost painted on the side of the ship.
Oh, man.
That's called hedging my bets. Now, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Why is it on the day that you watch the person that you assume to be some admiral's kid walk in to the commissary, why is it that you're the only one that pulls out a chair?
I think, like, in the scene, he kind of nudges him, like, really playfully. Like, Piata nudges Jazz really playfully, and he says, well, if you were somebody's kid, I had to make friends with somebody, right?
You know what? I respect the hustle. I can't deny that. I gotta say, I respect playing the game. I respect it a whole lot.
Plus, I mean, now that you're talking about it out loud, the ghost thing kind of sounds pretty plausible.
Like, lay out the facts. Like, look at it, and I think, like, he kind of, like, kicks back. We're sitting on, like, boxes, and, like, a box slides back, and I imagine we're playing whatever space card game we've got, and he just, like, starts laying out cards, like, look at the facts. Like, if you measure them out, yeah, they all sound ridiculous, but, like, you put them in order, suddenly things start tracking. I'm not saying it happened. I recognize it's ridiculous, but, like, I'm just saying, a lot of details add up.
I was not expecting to reassess my supernatural ties here. But, I mean, if there's anything anybody knows about you, it's making a compelling argument.
It is my favorite thing to do. It is something to pass the time. Am I right? That feels like a good. I think that feels like a good closing beat to this conversation. Is I think like we pan out as like Jazz is just like breaking down the evidence of this ghost sighting one for one.
Oh god, it's only Act 1 and I'm already in love with this game.
I like this game a lot. I like these characters a lot. All right, Act 2. They call your first real fight your baptism of fire. No matter how hard you train, no matter how prepared you think you are, you're never really ready. What do you remember about your first real fight? So we are going to flip a coin. I'm going to roll a dice. Do you want highs or lows?
I'll take highs again.
All right, that is lows. So the winner of the coin toss describes a fight we were caught up in early on where everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. What was the plan and how did it all go to hell? And then the loser decides how the battle ended. Were we able to pull through? Was the battle lost? What was the cost of what happened? So I think that this is later on. I think the Joy Riders are specifically in like a briefing room. I think that we are talking through a mission that we've been given to go and blow up some surveillance equipment that is watching the gate, right? Like our enemies have set up some cameras and sensors to like monitor the gate, and we are being sent out in our planes to go blow it up. And we're laying things out, and I think Jazz steps up and goes, "Now what we don't want is a repeat. What we don't want is a repeat of Halcyon 7, where, you know, like I'm sure we all remember it. We were all there. You know, we flew in formation." And we were sitting ducks. Like we need, you know, I know that the higher ups, the brass is going to come in and tell us stick to formation until absolutely necessary. But with the crap that they're giving us, that is writing home in a death sentence. We are going to be extremely visible, extremely fire uponable. So we need to work out a plan that is not that, because I am not crawling out of a burned plane again. I've done that once, 3.5 times. That's too many times.
You're at 6.
6? Fuck me.
Look, I mean, they never take in the maneuverability of these, right? And
it's honestly the only good thing about the plane.
But I mean, there weren't. This one's always tough for me to think about, right? Because like this was one of our first missions, right? And I mean, like we're all like the squad's just getting to know each other and everything too, right? And I mean, we had a couple casualties, not as many as they were thinking that we would, but it.
And that's why we can't let this happen again. You know, we're smarter now. We're older. We've been through this. And we know how to take advantage of the fact that these rusted piles of crap can at least duck and weave like the best of them.
When we finally got a little bit of cover, was this, Jeff, was this on planet or was this off planet?
I think that this was an on-planet mission. I think that we were sent in, and I think the world building here is, similar to the X-Wing. Like our little jet planes are like orbital fighters that have like atmospheric capabilities, like they can go between the two. And so we were sent in from orbit to go onto planet and like blow up like a weapons manufacturing facility. And we flew in formation, and like we see this in a flashback. Like we fly in a very classic like V formation. All of these jets fly in, and we just don't account for the fact that there are hidden weapons everywhere. So we just see a bunch of like missile columns come out of the ground and just batter the living hell out of us.
What about I do want to add that there were definitely like enemy pilots there as well.
Yeah,
on top of them having like surface to air missiles.
That feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think one thing that I think Piata gets real quiet, and he asks Jazz, "How did you even know where those spiderweb caverns were? Right? Like, how did you even know to lead us towards to lead us towards something like that? Did you have like a look at the map beforehand, or?"
And I think that like his posture drops. Like Jazz is kind of like, as he's giving this speech to the team, he's kind of got this like proper posture. He's kind of in like guidance mode, and the posture just drops as he's like, well, you see, the thing you got to look out for is you got to look out for where the plants stop, especially on like a semi-desert planet like Halcyon. You look out for where the plants stop, because that's going to imply that's where the water isn't, and where water isn't, that's where a spiderweb cave is. And he kind of starts breaking this down in, for lack of a better way to put it, like farmer logic. Like
and I think people in this, like, if other people are listening, they're just losing their minds, right? Because they're hearing this farm kid be a farm kid. Mm-hmm. But it's war. We're in the middle of war.
So he is just like fully like leaned into it and been like, well, see, because that's where the water isn't, that's where the cave is going to be. So honestly, you scan the ground, you see where the plants aren't, you fly towards that section, you're going to find a spiderweb cave sooner or later.
Is this? Do you think this is where? Do you think this is where Jazz earns their call sign? I
love that. Yeah, I really, really love that. I think that it is. Is it spiderweb?
Huh.
Is it farm boy?
No, because I don't want it to be farm boy, because like that's a little pejorative, right? Like I want it to be something that's maybe something that's connected to. We already know that, you know, he found the spiderweb caverns. Mm-hmm. We already know. What's another word for farmer?
Farmer. What if it's this is doing what I love in sci-fi. God.
Wait, I think I have it.
Go for it.
Reaper.
Yep, that feels good. Feels good.
Because you have the ghost on your plane already.
Oh fuck, I forgot I had the ghost on yep, that feels great. So, yep, Reaper.
Yeah, and you are the one, yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
I think that the added detail of that is people assume that the name Reaper is a ghost reference.
Nope,
like people
just
outside
all
of
farm stuff.
People outside of the Joyriders assume that like, oh, he's called Reaper, he's got a ghost, he's probably terrifying, and really the reality is that I just love farms. All right, do we want to go to our next act?
I think so.
That feels good. All right, mail is scarce, and packages from home even more so, but there is a package that got through for one of you. Who sent it? We are going to flip a coin. Would you like highs or lows?
I'm going to take highs on this one.
That's a 17. That is a high.
Okay.
So you have a package that is addressed to you. What are the contents? Who is it from? What is your relationship to the person who sent it? What do you miss about them? And do you choose to share any of those items with your friend? And then I am going to reach into my pocket or bag. I also have something that was sent to me. What is it, and what does it make me remember?
We're in a station right now, right? So we're off planet.
Yeah, I think we're on one of these big space aircraft carriers.
I think I get the package, and I think I get the package in the commissary, right? They're handing out all the mail. I get the package, and I think Jazz looks at it, grabs it, and runs out of the room with it. Because I think Jazz sees that it's from the officer, and we're going to call her Dama.
Dama, love it.
Yeah, and you're the one who's trying to cover for me now at this point.
Oh, Piata probably got a summons. Piata's probably getting investigated. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. They got a package. It's probably full of, evidence from some crime. Everybody, I think he turns to the entire rest of the Joyriders, make a detailed list of all of the things that we did on shore leave. Leave no detail off because we're going to want airtight alibis for all of us. I know what you're thinking. That's a lot of information for what is probably a petty rowdiness claim. You can never be too confident. You can never be too prepared. You can never be too ready. Let that be the lesson that we take from this. I'm going to go act as Piata's legal counsel? I guess. I'll be back.
And so Piata follows Jazz out of there, and I think they go to Piata's room, right? I think they go to his room, and I'm like, okay, let me open it now.
All right, what'd she send you?
He opens it, and there's 3 things. Number 1 is sunflower seeds. They're 100% for Jazz.
Oh, all right, hell yeah.
Number 2 is chocolate. We definitely just rip into it because there's
100%.
there's never chocolate on the station.
Love it.
And then number 3 is spices.
Oh, because you love cooking.
Yeah, and I think the spices are the one that's the piece that gets Piata, right? Because I think they could have just been fooling around, right? They could have just been, okay, like, it's wartime, like,
yeah.
It could have just been a 1 and done thing, then it turned into 2 and done, and 3 and done, and whatever and done. And now that she's on planet for a few days, just for leave and everything too, like, she thought of me. She thought of me, and she sent this over.
Huh.
What is that? Jazz, what does that mean?
I mean, that seems serious. Like, I don't know where your head is at, but that seems serious to, like...
Yeah, but I mean, according to articles, like, I'm definitely getting court-martialed if this gets out.
Oh, 100%. That's never in doubt. Like, you are screwed if this gets out. But that said, if things go... I mean, let me throw this to you first. I don't want to... Jazz is getting into Jazz's head, and I want to make sure I don't do that. Let me check in with you first. Where is your head at in terms of where you are in this relationship?
I really like her, right? Like, I mean, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't. I mean, I know...
All right, cool. So then let me be a terrible person for half a second.
Cool.
Let's say this goes well. Let's say that the two of you become an item. Let's say the two of you become a permanent item. You could leave. Then would you even be worried about a court martial at that point? You'd be the loving spouse of a decorated officer. I'm certain she has the ability to make this go away. Someone who's been around as long as she has, I feel like that would be easy for her. And then that's a win-win for you. You've got a loving relationship. You've got, you're back home. You've got a good life. That seems like a good place to be. It just means that you need a good legal counsel to make sure you stay out of trouble, and don't you forget that. And he pops a sunflower seed in his mouth.
Look, that sounds great on paper, Jazz. And here's the thing, though. I don't want to make it seem like this stuff was given to me. And doesn't this just automatically get the things that I'm working for? That I mean, that we're working for?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I do really like her, though.
I mean, it can be that simple. Truthfully, Piata, I like you a lot. You overthink things, way too much sometimes.
I think Piata stays a little bit quiet on that one. And then he changes the subject and says, well, wait, what did you get this mail round?
And he reaches into his pocket, and he kind of leans against a wall and goes, It's funny you ask, and it's funny to hear you talk about how serious this is, because he throws an envelope kind of onto a desk where you're sitting, and it's from just the Office of Infantry Management or whatever. I got a 2-week extension to shore leave.
When?
And he points at it, he's like, next month, when I put in for shore leave, they extended it by 2 weeks. Check the signature on it.
Oh my god, did Dama really?
She wants to keep me around just as much as she wants to keep you around, and if that doesn't feel serious to you, I don't know what does.
I think he Piata just lets out this gigantic belly laugh, right? It's a laugh that comes from deep, right?
Uh-huh.
How is it that I'm in the relationship and you're the one that's getting all the benefits?
You got spices, you got chocolate. Well, you got some chocolate.
I got half a chocolate, Jazz.
You could have taken the whole thing. I did not. You offered that chocolate to me. That was a gift. That was a friendship gift.
Yeah, of course. Because there's no way I'm leaving you behind.
I'm saying, I'm saying put in for leave at the same time, and we'll work out the paperwork. Why do you think you're the one that I came to about this, buddy?
I think that's a good place to end it.
That feels good. That feels really, really good. All right, Act 4. Sometimes the environment seems like the real enemy. It ravages friend and foe alike, and is so different than the way it was at home. So, do you want highs or lows?
Let's do low.
That is a 10, so that is a low.
That's a low, yeah.
You are the winner, so describe an environmental challenge you have faced in the past, something that put your survival at great risk. What was it? How does it make the place you're in now different than the one you came from? And I, as the loser, am going to decide what measures the army has put in place to deal with it. Are they actually effective? What is something the two of us discovered to help cope with those conditions? And how we bonded in figuring that out.
I think one of the environments that we're experiencing off planet whenever we're on our planes is a sort of traveling acid mist. Mm-hmm. So think about it kind of like rain, right?
Yeah.
But all of the other planes are well equipped with better metals and all that in order to that's not even a worry for them. It is a worry for us though. And it's a worry that we talk about and that's prevalent for us, but it's literally not a worry for anybody else.
Yeah.
And I like that it's an extra problem on top of all of the other problems that we already have.
I love it. And I think I imagine that we're again in this briefing room, right? And we're talking about this, and we have been given a mission to fly through an asteroid field that has this cloud of acid, this rain cloud of acid floating in between all of the different meteors. And we've been given this instruction that we are going to in a mission in our jets. And I think that there is just silence across the entire squad as we're just staring at the orders and looking at the map and just
I really miss flying through clouds on planet.
Right?
That was magical, right? That was just, it was there and then it wasn't, and then it's there again when you turn around, and just that's not what we're dealing with here, is it?
No, it's more of these godforsaken acid clouds, and I this is a punishment, right? We did something to piss someone off, and so they're sending us in our little They're sending us in our little paddle boats through this cloud of acid, and they know exactly what's going to happen, right? Like, we're being spited for this, right?
Are we being sent on this as a punishment? Like, is there somebody in the Joyriders who definitely messed up?
I think like on what I'll say is I think on average, on a given day, on average, probably.
Like, oh, it was just like a bunch of little things that have definitely piled up.
Like, I say that, and like half the squad, like Jazz distinctly remembers like mouthing off to a superior officer, and like distinctly remembers, you know, being called to attention, and we spent a little bit too long continuing our card game in the clubhouse.
We have the squad record for most bar fights in a night.
Yeah, so like there's it's like I posit that we're being punished, and like the entire squad just like hand to the back of the neck, like, yeah, I mean there was yeah.
And then there was that time that you guys got the goat on the station.
Okay, that was a great day. Like we're flying through an acid cloud. That's all I'm gonna say. You know what I bet it is? I bet they're still mad that we're spreading the truth on the ghost. This is a cover-up, is what this is. Just floating it. Everybody just let it sit. And I think that Jazz kind of leans back. You know what the worst part is?
What?
And he gestures to, there's a coat rack in the back of the briefing room where we have, like, new flight suits that we've been given. It's that they learned about the acid clouds. They said, this is a problem. This is a problem specifically for our planes in particular. And what do? Acid-proof jumpsuits. It did not ever occur to them that there might be a slightly larger issue that they need to implement. They said, here are some new jumpsuits.
Wait. For the, we just got that shipment of new mechs, right? I mean, that other squadron did, but we as in, I mean, I'm using the Royal We at this
point. The Royal We,
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, but that means maybe about 6 or 7 of their older models are just lying around, right?
And Jazz sits quiet for a second before just the biggest smile starts to pop on his face. I mean, yeah, but we're not supposed to even know how to... We're not even supposed to know how to pilot a Gladiator-class interstellar mech suit. Like, that would require somebody who has spent hundreds of hours researching and studying and a real master of their technical craft to be able to just hop into one of those.
Yes. Or we could try and hack the operating system for it, which I know is maybe 3 to 7 of the books that you've been reading lately.
I mean, I was trying to puff myself up as saying that I was good enough to pilot a Gladiator, but I appreciate you taking a more realistic tact. I appreciate that. I appreciate you keeping me in check.
You are okay, right? But okay. There are 6 other ones.
That's also true. That is true. That is true. Not everyone is a genius in their time. I respect this.
I think I think the rest of the Joylers are just hooting and hollering like in back of us as we're talking about this too. And I'm like, okay, so
we hacked the operating system and hey, Joyriders, do you want to go on a joyride?
And I think like the last part of that scene is everybody's walking out of the briefing room, and then Piata just mentions how big is the punishment for what we're about to do right now?
And I think that's where we leave it. I don't even think we answer that question. I think that there's just a pause, and then like we move on. Act 5. There was another time, one when we both encountered a soldier from the other side. For all that you saw, they weren't so different from your own brothers in arms. What do you remember about that day? Do you want highs or lows?
I would like lows.
That is a 13. So, as winner of the coin toss, I will describe the time we came across an enemy soldier. Similar in rank to your own, how did it happen? What were they like? Were there any barriers to communication, and if so, how did you overcome them? And what did you learn that went against what your commanding officers told you about them? And the loser of the coin toss remembers the fate of that soldier. How did the encounter end? Was there an act of mercy, or was their fate sealed by this endless war as your own? How does what happened sit with each of you? I know exactly where I want this to be set. We're back in the clubhouse. This has just happened. Like, this has just happened. I think most of the rest of the squad has, like, gone off. The Joyriders have gone off to commissary to celebrate coming back. And you and I, as the two people that had this encounter, are sitting quietly, like, staring at a game of cards that we're not playing.
Okay, but what?
I'm trying, Piata. I'm trying to find the words.
Okay, but, like, the language of this was the exact same. Like, how, grammatical structure, everything, man. It was just English. It was just English. And yeah, it came through a body, right? Like, it came through one of our own. Like, it came through a dead body. And I think that we get a flash of this. We get a flash of this soldier, and quite literally, there is like a fleshy kind of like plug into like the back of a corpse. But like we do get a brief moment of like, this doesn't have to be a fight, and we flash back to the clubhouse. And you'd think that would be more terrifying to me. You'd think that like that would be enough, but like he was so calm.
They were so nice. They did like, there was it.
Like
it was so immediate. Like, it was so immediately eager to like not fight us, and like it had us dead to rights. Our planes were downed. We were dead. Like, they had us. They could have plugged whatever weird fleshy plug into the back of our skulls and turned us into whatever. And instead, it's just like what kind of if what we've been told is true, if even a third of what we've been told is true, what kind of horrifying, monster is going to use a body to say, I don't want this to be a fight. Let's just talk and let's get you home.
I don't understand why he looked so familiar. I don't understand why he felt so familiar.
Yeah, right. You felt that too, right?
And so I don't know if they're taking us. I don't know if they're taking us for anything bad.
I don't know. I really thought I had a handle on things. I thought it made sense. But
these things have killed multiples of us, right? People in our own squad.
And yet I didn't feel the slight, like, it was funny. Like, it shouldn't have been funny. It shouldn't have been charming.
Why did we let him go?
'Cause he asked? 'Cause he let us go? I guess? It seemed...
I'm just trying to understand that in our exchange, who was the one that was actually showing mercy? Was it him or us?
I think it was one then the other, right? Like, I think, like, he could have killed us in that moment, right? Our planes were down, we were stranded, we were helpless. Yeah, we probably could have offed him, but two others would have shown up and killed us. Like, we were goners, and instead he offered a conversation, and so it just seemed, I don't know, like, tell me if this is silly, but it just seemed cruel not to offer the same thing, right? Like, maybe I don't know, did you feel the same thing? Like, he turned his back and walked away, and I, like, what am I gonna do? Shoot him then?
Why? It just felt like he was saying see you later rather than goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, that's what this is, right? Like, that's the nature of this thing, is that we're gonna keep fighting until... Fuck, I don't even know. I don't even know when we're gonna stop fighting, but, like, we're gonna keep fighting until, I guess, our tours run out. And is it weird that I'm looking forward to it? Like, is it weird that, like, if I see this one particular alien on a battlefield, is it weird that that sounds like fun to me? Like, is it weird that that seems like, That doesn't sound like such a bad thing.
I don't think Piata can find the words.
I don't think Jazz can either, and I think that we end the scene with us just staring off into space. And that brings us to Act 6. Moments like this, moments of peace, they never last on the front line. The sound of a weapon pierces the quiet reverie, the alert sounds. You hear a sudden weapon fire. Would you like highs or lows?
I'm gonna take lows.
That is an 11. That is high. The winner of the coin toss looks over at their friend and sees blood spread from their fatal wound. Describe how you get them away from the fight. Describe the moment you realize that there is nothing you can do. The player that lost should share what is going through their mind. What does the final moments look like, and what are our final words to each other? I think I'm gonna make this go big and say that, like, almost immediately there is an explosion in the docking bay, and, like, the clubhouse is in ruin. Several of the ships are downed, and we're not even in our jets when we're not even in our jets when you get injured, right? Like, it's just a random explosion, some strafing fire on the side of the docking bay, and I think I just I scoop up Piata and I just start running, and I think I even run past some like some people doing emergency triage, and I kind of do like a little bit of a Breakfast Club slide down a hallway, and where we end up is in Dama's office.
I think there's very labored breathing, and I think I don't know if I want to do this with words right now, Jeff. Like, I don't know.
I think that feels right. I think that I think no words feels right. I think we see Dama and Jazz like look at each other, and there is this kind of wordless acknowledgement between the two of them that like it was the right call to do this because like it's not savable, right? Like there's the idea that like you probably like coming here so that the two of you could have this moment is more important than bringing you to a triage station that's not going to be able to do the job.
I think what Piata would do is he would reach, like he's trying to cover the wound with his hand, but he reaches out to the both of you, and there's like it's blood soaked, right? And he reaches out to the both of you, and I think when he does, like he goes so quietly, like there's no hemming or hawing about it. He just goes quietly. It's like all the sound in the room has just been sucked out of it.
And I think that Dama and Jazz just like sit for a long and like neither says a word for a very long time.
I think when you did grab his hand, though, I think he handed you a sunflower seed.
Oh, fuck.
And
Oof.
I think when Dama takes her hand away, it's a ring.
Mm-hmm.
And Piata chose to send a message to the people that he loved before he left.
Mm-hmm. And I think with the shot we end with is just the two of them sitting quietly, like looking at this thing in their hands. Before Jazz does not even say anything to Dama, like just kind of like gets up, turns his back, walks out, and we linger on that moment. We linger on each of them quietly holding this thing in their hands in these two separate worlds that will never intersect. You know, no matter how deep our shared bond, we exist on different planes. We exist on different tracks. And I think we just linger on us holding these objects. And that is game. Wow!
Please excuse me while I cry forever.
Yeah, right? Post-game debrief. Let's take a moment to breathe. Check in, see how we're feeling. You feeling all right?
Oh, yeah. No, that was great.
Great. Yeah, I feel great. That was beautiful. That was an incredibly intense... there's a lot that I love about this game. There's a lot that I love about the structure of it, the characters that we created. Like, I knew what was coming because I had read the game before we sat down, so, like, there was this dread in the back of my brain every scene of, like, oh, fuck, I like these characters just a little bit more. Shit, fuck. It was brutal, and I think it captured the exact experience that the game set out to, of, you know, these were people that I cared about, and then one of them died in a horrible and pointless way, and, like, fuck.
I'm just this game is man, it's so beautiful in its simplicity, right?
Yeah.
Like I would say that in my TTRPG career, I am notorious for having terrible roles in the most inappropriate moments. And something I think this gives you so much freedom, right? This like Brothers in Arms gives you this ability to just tell the story, right? And I think some of the best games let you choose to fail.
Yeah. I love the way that it, like, it leaves it gives you these permissions, and it just leaves it so up to, you know, what is right for the two characters in front of you and the two people telling the story. And, like, that, like, the decisions that you make just feel so personal for that exact reason, that it created just a really beautiful feeling. And I'm thoroughly grateful that we got to play this, and I'm thoroughly grateful that we got to play this together.
Is this the first time that you've played this?
This is the first time that I've played this, and it hit me straight in the heart.
Yeah, and oh gosh, just the open-endedness of everything too. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed this. Thank you for having me for this.
Thank you for joining me. This was a blast and a half. I could not be more happy with how this turned out. I am overjoyed. Before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah, sure. So once again, I am JPG. I am a pop culture educator and consultant. You can find me on social media at SpeakerJPG, and then through my social media, you can find my link tree with all of the work that I've done so far in the pop culture and tabletop RPG spaces.
Hell yeah! Well, thank you again for playing this with me. This was the best experience. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks to JPG for coming on the show. That was... holy shit. That game blew me away. Like, I've been sitting and thinking about that since we played it. And, like, I am shaken. Like, it was a beautiful, heartbreaking, brutal game that I could not be more grateful to have experienced. Be sure to head to the show notes for your own copy of Brothers in Arms. Be sure to check out JPG's work at Linktree. That's linktr.ee/SpeakerJPG. And be sure to follow him on Twitter at SpeakerJPG. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod. Like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/PartyOfOnePodcast. Join our Discord at bit.ly/PartyOfOneDiscord. Follow us on TikTok at Party of One Podcast, Tumblr at Party of One Pod. And if you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes or Spotify or Podchaser review. Consider backing the show financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer, or just saying a nice thing about us on social media, telling a friend about the show. Really, there's a lot of things you can do. If after listening to all of that, you're like, God, I wish I had 2 more great podcasts to listen to, I've got you covered. All My Fantasy Children is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast hosted by myself and my best friend, Aaron Catano Saez. Every week, we take a listener-submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. And Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast is an award-winning actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their lives inside. You can find both of those shows wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Rain, featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to come on as a guest, if you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, or you'd like to inquire about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical, defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.